All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. And in the last breakdown video, we were in Grandma's kitchen. Today, we are in the dining room. Let's go to the footage. What are we going to be looking at today? And I know this is your face, right? This is you. You are in disbelief that we are going to learn anything new here. You're thinking to yourself, how I can't, not another one of these breakdowns. Not this commercial again. Can it be? Last time we did, what did we do? We did Grandma's kitchen. This time, ta-da! We are in the dining room, and we're going to be delivering some bad news. Some bad news to the missus, right? And this is me delivering bad news to the director. Hey, listen, we went over budget by about 1,000%, and we're not going to be able to shoot that one scene that you really, really wanted. Is that okay? You just put your hand ever so gently. Yeah, sorry. We blew it. And I'm going to be on another job next week, so good luck fixing it in the edit. Okay, if you are a Patreon supporter, you will have seen 2 videos on this job already, right? We did an initial reaction job to the boards, and the test for me for this job was the first time that I went through and I shared, okay, this is my first look at the boards before we even shot the ad. And then I went on the location scout, and I did a whole video inside of the location, like talking about the pros and the cons and the angles. And ultimately, the Patreon supporters were able to see that before we shot the thing. And what that did was that gave me like an anchor into reality of, do I actually do what I say? Like, how close does it get? How close does the final setup here, how close is that to what I initially thought would be the case? Like, am I able to manipulate all the little levers inside of the production, the producer, the production team in order to get the resources, the director in order to guide us into like, this is, I think, probably the best case scenario. What's the pushback there? And then getting the crew on board. This is the first time and the first job where I have had some accountability as to just not pull this straight from my ass after I've shot it and been like, oh, this is actually the reason that we did this. It's like, no, the Patreon supporters know this is exactly what I said we would do. This exact light setup, not much changed. Like I never really specify like fixtures or anything, but there were some things that we had to overcome on the day. And that is what this video is all about. So if you're interested in more of this, if you want to hear more about this process because you are working in the industry and you're trying to find a way to do it better, or you're looking to break into the industry, certainly Patreon is the best way to support the channel so I can do more of this stuff. But also, hopefully, I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands of hours of content just like this over on Patreon, which you get instant access to if you decide to support the channel. Okay, let's go into it. So we have Guy, he's delivering bad news to his lady friend here, and we're talking about the framing, and we're talking about the lighting setup and why we would do those things. So remember, the very first thing that we looked at when we were looking at the boards was, hey, what kind of scene is this? Is this, there's only 5. Is this an office scene? Is it a bar scene? Is it a dining room table scene? Is it a vehicle, or is it an other, right? Those are the 5. Well, you might be surprised here if you're not familiar with the blocking system, but this is not a dining room table scene, even though we're at the dining room table. Why? Because a dining room table involves more than 2 people. This is 2 people, okay? I know we're not very good at counting, but this is what 2 people look like. And if it's a scene with 2 people, then there's only 2 options for the scenes. It's, are they looking at each other, right? Are they looking in the same direction, or are they looking in opposite directions? So lady looking this way, gentleman looking this way. Is that the same? No, that's opposite, okay? This is like an English class here. It would be different if this lady was looking this way and old mate was over here looking this way too, right? That would be like them sitting at a bar. And this is not that scene. So immediately in my head, when I'm looking at the boards, I know the Rolodex of choices available to me has just been eliminated to 2 options. Which side of the line are we going to light this from? Are we going to light it from down here, downstage, or are we going to light it from here, upstage? Because that will determine all of my framing, all of my shots, and the quality of the light, and the fixtures, and the placement of the lights. All of those things are decided once we know office scene, I want to light upstage, okay? Now, if you know the office scenario, you'll know really inside of the office scenario, there's only really 3 shots, right? There's only really 3 options. And it just so happens that with the coverage that the director has decided upon here for us and the location that we're in, like the only way to get a wide shot here is to do the profile shot. Now, normally the profile shot in an office scenario is not the wide. Normally a dead profile shot is like a change in momentum inside of a scene, or a reset if we might have to cross the line or something, or if somebody leaves. Like, that's normally why you would use the straight profile shot. Here, for our purposes, it's the only way we get a wide. So this is what we have to come up with the wide. Now, the hard bit about the profile shot is in the office scene. Let's go to the actual coverage here. Let's look at his coverage. Both of these coverages, right? Where is the light? Okay, the light is, if we can imagine here, just imagine a 4x frame going this way for her and this way for him. Okay, the light is coming from the side and we're getting this line right down the middle. The light is coming from the ground and pushing at them. Now, do you see the problem? When we have the profile shot, the problem is our 4x frame would be right there in the shot. So that's not going to work. So we're going to have to light from above. This is also like a creative choice as well, but this is the reality of shooting a profile shot. If you are going to shoot a profile shot, regardless of whether it's a night interior or a daytime interior, you're going to have the light source in the shot. Now you can fake it. Like in the case of a daytime interior, this would be a window. For our nighttime interior, we need an excuse to have light coming this way, right? And that excuse is right here. And you're like, oh, Patrick, that's just a beautiful location that happens to have that lamp. In fact, if we go behind the scenes, ta-da, that little lamp there is hidden by the door over here, up on the stand and over and hung down, right? Hung to frame. So this is our excuse for all of the lighting that we're going to push from this light and from over here to there, right? That's our excuse. That's our gag light for the actual key. Now, the issue that's going to come from this is that, well, we got a few different things. Number one, before we even get there, let's talk about the placement of these two. Originally, and this is the conversation that you have to have with the director, it's like originally, I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if we draw this out. Let's draw it out over here so we're not distracted by anything. If we draw this out, this scene, we've got two people at a table. And originally, well, that I had to talk them out of it, it was a square table, right? Like the table that is here in this shot here. It's a square table. And they were going to have one person here, and then they were going to have one person here, or one person here and one person here. This really doesn't work for the wide, right? This scenario where those two people are like that. So it's like, oh, and then the next one was, okay, we'll do a round table, but we'll put them both on that side. So if the camera's here looking through that door, then they're both going to be on that side. Now, what is the problem with putting two people on the opposite side of the dining table in this scenario, right? Let's just go here. If they are on the other side of the table, yeah, it possibly makes the wide a little bit better because we can compress everything more. We can get on a longer lens, but the gag light will be pointing directly at them. So all of this would be front lit, right? Now you're thinking, okay, on a profile shot, front lit, that's not that bad, right? If it's all filled in, like we could set the mood all around them to be nice. And I would agree with you. I would say that's not that bad. But remember, we need to think steps ahead. We need to see into the future for shape and for mood. And the problem comes then of what do we do with this back and forth, these two singles, right? We're like inside the conversation now. Imagine all of the light coming this way. So this would all be lit up like a Christmas tree, and this would be dark over here. This would be dark, and this would all be lit up like a Christmas tree. That just kills the mood, absolutely flattens off the mood. And the last thing that we want to be doing is fighting flatness. Like if you can avoid flat, I would say avoid flat, because overcoming flat takes a lot of time and nuance, and man, you got to grip forest around the people to try and get rid of flatness. So why don't we just talk to the director and say, hey, can we put them on this side of the table with the light source behind them? That way it's coming at them this way. And if they go, oh, it doesn't really make sense, you go, man, it would look a lot better. And they go, oh, okay, let's do it. Or maybe they're just like, yeah, let's do it. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Anyway, that's what we sold. And that was the biggest, like that one decision on where to put these two around the table where you're like, that doesn't really have anything to do with cinematography. No, that is everything. That is the one, if I added one thing to this scene, look-wise, that wasn't there before, it was the choice to have the people on this side of the table. Because now we're lighting from upstage. And now the question becomes, how do we light from upstage? Now, what's the solution? Now that we have the path that we're going to go down, what is the solution? Well, the solution is let's get a faux overhead fixture. So with that overhead, we're looking for like a pool of light so it can be dark and down. And then what are we going to do with the actual scene? Like, how are we going to light that? And easiest when you're doing profile stuff, which is this, is we're just going to cross key, right? We're going to have light over here, light over here. That gets her key. This gets his key. That also acts as a backlight. The other one acts as a backlight for her. And we put a little prac in the background. We have, I talked about this too in the Patreon video before. What are these? These are like your secret weapon, right? They are gray shears. And why are gray shears important? Because if they're white shears and you're going for a nighttime look and you light them up, it's really, really easy to overcook it. Gray shears, much harder to overcook. In fact, you can pump way more color into it and way more level, and it still comes out like just, ooh, yeah, just giving it just a little tiny something. Then we've got something here for the door as well. It's like, why did we shoot through these cool glass doors? Because they're cool and they're glass, and they're doors that we can open so we can set the frame. And the more frame that we can occupy with the doors, the closer we can get the stands for the lights. Okay, so all of these decisions start adding up to, oh, we're getting a little bit of shape. And now what you should see, if you're looking at this critically like I am, is first thought is, man, we went way too hot on this backlight, and we went way too hot on this hair light. Like, that's a bummer. But the big one is this gentleman's light is a lot softer than this lady's, right? This is really, really hard. And there's no way we can get around that. Why? Because the distance, which you're going to see in the behind the scenes still, this light, which is cross-keying him, is way closer than this other light, okay? The only other thing that we're doing here is we've got a prac just out the frame here, and that's filling this in because it was just a little bit too crunchy, right? You would have a little bit more room ambient in this scenario, so we just wanted to play up that tiny, tiny little bit of fill. So if we go to the behind the scenes, let's go to this one. It's probably the easiest place to see it. So there you see that prac, right? Now that prac is really good for me in terms of filling in that lady's near side body, because I can just walk in there and I can like push it back. Like it's 2 steps off of the dolly, push the thing back myself, come back to the monitor. Does it look better? I can do that while everyone else is setting up other things, right? There's lots of stuff to be setting up here. There's this prac, there's this window that we have to take care of. There's the actual key light, then there's this light. There's lots of stuff. And we only think we had, what, 2 in lighting on this job? Maybe 3 in lighting. So there's lots and lots of things that they are doing, and I like just being able to easily manipulate things myself, go out there and change it, especially when it's like a 1% thing. If it's a big like key light thing, well, okay, let's get the whole team on it. But if this, moving this a little bit over makes that fill on her, 1 or 2% better, I'm happy to do that myself. You can see now the cross key here. Well, that's the pull for the actual prac, which we controlled as well, and that's way down. Right, that's making almost 0 difference. Even in the behind the scenes, you can see just how much level is coming out of these and how little level comparatively is coming out of there. So we've got our gray shears in the background. There's a tube, and you're wondering, Patrick, why is the tube at an angle like that? I have no idea, right? There's lots of things going on set. I don't follow everything the lighting people are doing. I don't know why they put it like that, but they did, and probably they have their reasons for it. This is tinier, this little softbox for him, and this is a lot longer and wider, but this is way further away from our lady, right? This is much closer to our gentleman. So that explains the difference in the quality. And that's something that you would like, oh, if we were shooting in a studio, I would probably change that so that it was a little bit softer in this wide. What other information do you have to know? For this one, I don't think much, right? I don't think much. So from here, we go into our coverage. And this is where in the schedule part of things, it's like, okay, well, if we're shooting in the profile, we started here with the wide because it takes the most setup. Then you have to ask yourself, schedule-wise, where do we go to next? Do we do her coverage? Do we do his coverage? Sometimes this will be dictated to you by the production. They'll say like, oh, well, this is the gentleman who's in every scene in this commercial, and he's got to run off and do like a costume change so that the next setup we can just walk into. So maybe we have to do his side first, and then he can go off and change, and we'll finish on her side. But I think this one was up to us, like the lighting team, the grips, and myself, to say, well, what is going to be the least amount of changeover when we have to change directions, because we should do that first. And ultimately, I think we decided on doing hers first. So we come down and we come into the conversation here. And all we're doing at this stage is we are taking that prac that was overhead, that we completely turned that off. We re-angle the key light that was doing the gentleman over here. We just angle that now at the top of her head so it gets a little bit better placement. We look at the amount of level coming from that background window. So to match it up for here, because we're seeing a lot more window here than we are there, right? There we're only seeing a little tiny bit. Here we're seeing significantly more. So we reduce that level on the window. Then we bring in some neg to control all of this shape. And then here again, I probably would say we overcooked the top light. I'd say, man, we should have come way, way down on that. And then over here, we're taking the light that was keying her and we're just putting a 4x frame in front of it, like right there. So super quick to just jump in here and get this done, right? This is a very, very simple setup. And then for going closer, it's just a lens change, really. And we come, as you get closer, what happens? We come around the conversation. So we started in the profile over here, wide, mid shot, slightly more around, finally close up, most around. Now, normally, why this has become like standard practice is because if you were shooting with two cameras, oh, what did I do there? Dang it. If you're shooting with two cameras, you wouldn't want the wide, like let's set it up here. Where could we do this? Let's do it over here. And we can use this guys as two as well, even though this is like an awkward angle that we chose for a bit of the conversation. Let's say this is our scene here. This is our top-down scene, and we're shooting a lady here. If you have the close-up from more off axis than the wide, it looks funky when it cuts together because the eye line like jumps in the close-up. It like jumps at a much steeper angle, which just doesn't read very well in a cut or in an edit. So the standard is, well, if we have a longer lens and we've got this guy, who's this guy, he's sitting in, like the long lens can be right by the guy's ear. And that way we get a really, really direct eye, right? It's much closer to the matte box of the camera. Whereas the wider one, we can just a little bit off access it. So that's where it comes from. And like the choices for why it feels a little bit more normal to be off axis on the mid shot. Again, some people don't like that, but that's the ultimate look that we went for. Again, you can see, Jesus, I've done it again. Overcooked that top light for sure. And it would have been cool to fit like more prac in this one. You know, there's that prac that's here. That would have been better if we could just slide it down. You can see here that in this one, we cheated it up here, this little slash. We just moved the prac down, but ultimately for this shot, it was just too much of a cheat to go, wait a second, like the whole thing floated down here. And the answer is, no, it didn't float down there. We just are constantly moving these people in and out. Okay, then we go to his angle. Now his angle is where we have to start changing things, right? Because this background and this level, I mean, we pretty much got it set in this wide shot. For this background, this is stuff we've never seen before. So we're gonna have to do a complete relight. And if you look in here, let's go to this one. So I'm standing now taking this picture where the camera is going to be looking, right? So what we want to do is, if we come to his wider version, we've done the same trick that we did before. We've turned off the overhead. We've pushed the key level through a softened 4x frame. That's the eyelight that you get. We're using the key that was keying the lady as now his backlight. And this is, I would say, is a much better level on the backlight to sit it in a little bit nicer with the environment. And then we brought the neg really close this side, right? So same formula we did before, super, super easy. The one thing that we did add is this here. If you have your detective goggles on, you will recognize, like, wait a second, that thing looks familiar. It looks exactly like the thing that was over the table before. And you would be correct. We just moved it into the background because it looked bad without it in there. There was no point of interest. Like the lights are actually physically in the ceiling. They're those little LED downlights, and those things look like hot garbage. So we have little tiny bit of window with gray sheer pushing level through. We add in over the top this faux practical. There's a little tube underneath this bench that just gives us a little bit of light. Where? Not on the light side of the face. That would be distracting. On the dark side of the face. That's where the light is in the background, right? That's how you get the contrast. And that's the thing that makes the most difference with this frame, right? I would say 3 things. And how you go about getting these 3 things is counterintuitive if you don't know the process on set. So when we go to do this change, right? Like let's say we've done her angle. She gets up. Okay, we're going to reset. The first AD says, okay, everybody, we're going to take 10 minutes. We're going to reset for his angle. Now, we don't just I don't just plop him back where he originally was and say like, okay, we'll just deal with the background. It's like, no, I frame for the background. I say, what would be good in the background? It's a dark, moody background. Well, a little bit of light would be nice. So I have to see a little bit of that window. So I just angle it until I see a little bit of window. And then, oh, we also got a little bit of this, and we get a little bit of countertop in the background. And it's like, oh, I see something there. Like we could use a little light under there. There's a hidden spot up there. We could light from in there. And then what if we put him in the frame there? And then, you could rotate around more and more and more and more and more, see more window here, and you could put his head like in there. But then you would have the dark part of his face lined up with the dark part of the background. Okay, so it's like a balancing act, but you set the frame first. And in reality, if we come in here, let's see, this one's probably the easiest place to see it. In reality, if this is the wide setup, like his chair position for his close-up stuff is like, I don't know, another foot upstage, right? So that I can get the camera over here and I can get just a little bit of this window over there. Now, of course, all these stands have to be moved out and everything, but we're cheating him upstage because no one's going to be able to recognize, number one, we haven't seen this area of the room before. So no one's going to be able to pick out that everything's been moved about 2 feet upstage. Never going to happen. And you get this little, like when I'm setting that frame, I'm thinking, is there any like easy wins? Like, oh, that little light bit there. Oh, the little nook that we can light under. Oh, the window. It's mainly the window, though, if we're being honest. And then finally, it's like, okay, it's really flat back there. We don't want to push in any more level. I mean, we could have. That would like another option if we had a little bit more time would be take the shears that are on that window and only make half the window sheared, the half that's in the shot. And then we could push like moonlight, like harder moonlight on some accents here. Or like we put something on the counter and we backlight that. Like that would have been nice, actually. In fact, that probably would have made this better. Now that I think about it, we probably should have done that. We just didn't have time. But the last thing was, let's put a light up there. And then let's just give it a tiny little bit of something over the top. Now this ended up being, and then for this shot, it's just to change the lens and moving in closer. But now you can see, again, I'm looking for that. I'm getting that window in the background, putting the plant in front of it to get a little more depth, using this cut on the tabletop, maneuvering the table behind him to get a little edge of table in there. Like all of those things, even though you look at it and you're like, oh, you probably just set for, to see his face. It's like, no. We set the frame, then we put his face in there, exactly where we want it. And all of that happens super fast. Like you're not talking to anybody about this stuff. This is in the 7 minutes of framing when you're actually making a decision, this is what you're going for. It's like how fast can you Rolodex through all of these different ideas is what ultimately makes the difference. So here, same lighting setup, no difference. But I think that's it. I think that is our look behind the scenes. You can tell it's a hell of a lot brighter. And ta-da. Okay. So what do we got? I think we've got another 1, 2, 3, probably 4 different setups from this commercial that we're going to be going over in later videos. But that's it. Pretty standard. The only coverage that we didn't get here that's normal in the office scenario is the actual wide shot, like the angled wide. But we used the profile instead. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Many thanks. If you want to see more of this stuff, Patreon is the spot to do it. Many thanks for the support, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.